Okay, good morning class. Now this second video is on section 6.2 about how to use sine, cosine, tangent to find an unknown side of a triangle. Okay, now I want to look at work example 2 that's on page 196. Okay, I'm going to work example 2 question A first. Now you are given 72 degrees according to the question. Now with respect to 72, this side is the opposite side and this side is the hypo because it's opposite the right angle. Okay, now once we have identified this, we will write down and see which one we are going to use. Now since I'm finding opposite and I know hypo, so opposite hypo, I will use sine. Okay, I will use sine. Alright, that means sine 72 degrees is x over 12. So x over 12 is sine 72. X will be 12 times sine 72. When you press your calculator, you'll get 11.4. So identify where is the unknown that you want to find and what are the things given. In this particular case here, opposite, you're supposed to find opposite, you're given hypo, you must use so. Okay, and make sure that your calculator is in the degree mode before you key in your values. Okay, now I'm moving on to part B. Now you are given 37 degrees. This is the opposite and this is the hypo. Now let's take a look at the three ratios again. Because I know opposite, I want to find hypo, so it will still correspond to so, which is sine. So sine 37 is opposite 5 over hypo y. I'm solving for y. So move y over, then after that you move sine 37 degrees over because it's times, move over become divide, you get 8.31. Okay, alright, so that is how we use the trigonometrical ratios to find the value of an unknown side of a triangle, a right angled triangle. Okay, now I am moving on to example 3 of page 197. Can you look at example 3 of page 197? Alright, okay, now this is your example 3 of page 197. Okay, now the question say in triangle PQR, okay, in triangle PQR, angle R is 90 degrees, angle P is 42 degrees, PR is 15 cm, calculate the length of QR. Now with respect to 42, this side is the opposite and this side is the adjacent of 42. With respect to an angle, this is the opposite, this is the adjacent. Now if I apply trois quarts so, okay, trois quarts so, you will realize that I have opposite and adjacent. Opposite and adjacent, I must use tangent. Okay, so tangent 42 is opposite, which is don't know, QR, over adjacent, which is 15. I am finding out QR. So you move 15 over, finding QR, you key in the calculator, you'll get the answer as 13.5 cm. Ensure that your calculator is in the degree mode before you key in the calculator. That is your example 3 of your page 197. Now I'm moving on to example 4 and we are using exactly the same concept. Exactly the same concept. Okay, now let us take a look. Now for this question, 55 is given. Now this is the hypo because it's opposite the right angle. This is the adjacent side of 55. So adjacent hypo, if I apply trois quarts so, adjacent hypo, I must use quart, adjacent hypo. So cosine 55 is 12 over xy. So you divide over times, then times you bring over become divide cosine 55. You will get the answer as 20.9 meters. 20.9 meters. That will be your work example 4. Okay. Now I'm going on to work example 5. Alright. Feel free to stop the video if you need to copy down some things and do some notes. Okay. Now, can we look at example 5 now? Okay. They give you all the information and they ask you to find AC. Now, all of you look. AC is here. I know this one. Okay. Can you see that with respect to 32, this is the opposite. And this is the hypo because it's opposite the right angle. The right angle over there. Okay. Opposite hypo, tuaka so. I will use so. So sine 32 is AC over 24. You can find out AC. Okay. By doing the appropriate steps. Okay. So AC is 12.7 meters. Now, if you look at the second part, they want you to find BC. With respect to 32 degrees, BC is the adjacent. If I have adjacent and hypo, I will use adjacent hypo, I will use cosine. So cosine 32 is BC adjacent over hypo 24. I do the necessary steps, I will get 20.4 meters. Okay, 20.4 meters. Now, then some people will be wondering, are these the only methods to use for this particular question? Actually, not necessary. Now, you can see that this is actually a right angled triangle, and I can also use Pythagoras theorem. Okay, that means AB square is AC square plus BC square. So Pythagoras theorem. But remember, when you use Pythagoras theorem, we must make sure that the working is to 5-figure truncate. And after that, the final answer is to 3 significant figure round off. Okay, now my advice is always use the information that's given in the question because it will not be wrong. Try not to use those answers that you have find because sometimes we make mistakes. So the safest way is to use sine and cosine because all the information are given. But if you use Pythagoras theorem, it's also not wrong. But please ensure that your answers are correct. If not, it will affect your second part. And also in working, you must use working to 5 significant figure truncate and a final answer to 3 significant figure round off. This is the basic rule for working using approximated values from the previous part. Okay, so this is example 5. Alright, now I want you to turn to page 199, exercise 6b. Exercise 6b. I'm going to go through some questions and you are supposed to take this down on your foolscap paper. Okay, now let's look at question 1a. Let's look at question 1a. They want you to find the unknown a. Now, with respect to 64, this is the opposite. And this is the hypo. So, opposite hypo, I will use so. That's why I use sine 64 is opposite over hypo. A over 8. Then I solve for A accordingly. Okay? It's always the same method. Just identify which ratio you are using. Alright? Next question, I'm going on to 2b. Now, for 2b, the angle given is 61.5 degrees. Okay? Now, this is the opposite of 61.5 and this is the adjacent. For opposite and adjacent, I use tua, opposite adjacent. That's why it's tangent here. I put opposite over adjacent. I do the necessary steps and I will get 7.60. The answer must be given to 3 significant figure round off. Now, I am moving on to 3a. Now for those who cannot copy, please pause the video, copy, understand it before you move on. Now can we look at question 3a now? I am finding the unknown A. With respect to 28, this is the adjacent. And this is the hypo, because hypo is opposite the right angle. So adjacent hypo, I will use car. So cosine 28 is A over 14. Bring the 14 over, I will get the answer as 12.4. Okay, 12.4. Now you can see that for all the parts, I am just using Tuakaso to see which one I can apply. Okay, now next, I'm moving on to question 4b. Now in 4b, there are two unknowns. Okay, there are two unknowns, C and D. Let us look out for C first. 43 is the angle. So this is the hypo. This is the adjacent to 43. This is the opposite to 43. Now if I want to find C, I have to use adjacent hypo. So I use car. That's why it's cosine. Okay, that's why it's cosine. I plug in the appropriate values and I solve. I will get C as 12.4. Now if I want to find D, I'm using opposite and hypo. Opposite and hypo is so opposite and hypo. So I plug in the values, D over 17, sine 43, and I do the necessary steps. I will get 11.6. 11.6. So I'm not deviating from anything. I'm always using sine, cosine and tangent to find the unknown. Okay, now I'm going on to two more questions before I end this section. Now can you look at question 4D. Question 4D. Now the angle now given is 19.5 degrees. 19.5 degrees. This is the opposite. This is the hypo and this is the adjacent. Okay, if I want to find H, I'm finding hypo, I know opposite, I use so. Okay, so I use sine, I plug in the values, I get the answer. It is just the same as all the previous examples. Okay, now if I'm finding G, this is opposite, this is adjacent. Opposite, adjacent, I use dua. That's why I use tangent over here. I plug in, I manipulate and get the answer as 26.0. Okay, so the important thing is how do we get all these things? Okay, it's based on dua, ka. So depending on which two we know, then we apply accordingly. Okay, now I'm going on to the last question, and that is question number 5. This one may be a bit difficult, but I'm going to explain it to you. Okay, this is found on page 200 of your textbook. Okay, now you read through the question. They want you to find AH, this one. AH, part 1, this one, AH. Now, class, I want you to look at this particular triangle. Okay, 54, this is opposite, this is hypo. So, to find AH, I use sine. Opposite hypo, I will get AH as 6.88 meters. Okay, 6.88 meters. Now, because this particular question, there are two triangles involved, so it's a bit confusing. So try and identify the triangle that you are using. So this is part 1 where I find AH, and I'm just looking at this triangle ABH. I'm looking at triangle ABH. Okay, now next, look at part 2. Part 2 is slightly difficult because they want you to find out, okay, what is HC? Now, it's not so easy to find out HC. Alright, it's not easy to find out HC. I want you to look first of all. Okay, I want to find out the length of AC first. Okay, I want to find out the length of AC first. Now I want all of you to look at this big triangle here. This is 90 degrees. This is 54. So this is the opposite. This is the adjacent according to this big triangle and 54. So tangent 54 is AC over 8.5. I use dua tangent. So I can find out AC is 11.699. Okay, 11.699. Now, just now I've already found out AH. If I have AH and AC, I can use Pythagoras theorem to find HC. Okay, I repeat. I have found out AH and AC, I can use Pythagoras theorem to find out HC. Now, don't forget, if I use that, all the working must be to 5-figure truncate. Okay, I apply Pythagoras theorem. Then for HC, I take the square root and this, okay, I'll be able to get the answer. Okay, now I'm going to summarize for this section 2. This section 2 is applying dua, ka, so. That means sine, cosine and tangent to find unknown sides. Now notice that Pythagoras theorem can also be used in this particular section. Okay, and what is important is that you must first of all identify which ratio you want to use. Is it tangent, is it cosine, or is it sine, depending on the question, the information given in the question itself. Okay, class, I hope that you'll practice all these things and do not wait until when school reopens, because that will be too late. Okay, feel free to replay the video anytime you want and make sure you get the concepts into your head. Okay, I will upload my video as soon as possible for you to take note so that you can learn on your own. Alright, thank you class and have a good day.